Our cooler weather means friskier four-legged friends, and December is one of the most dangerous months for animal collisions on our roadways. In today's Injuries Are Personal with Reynolds Law, attorney Carl Reynolds is here to talk about animal driving safety and even some potential liability issues. Carl, I understand that's a big problem here in Florida.
It is. 33,000 collisions each year with animals that require claims on insurance.
In Florida, 33,000. Yeah. I have hit a deer, so I know how frightening that can be, not only for the animal, but for the car and the people in the car.
Correct.
How do you avoid that? Any tips on how to avoid hitting those animals?
Well, sure. We should pay attention to animal crossings, okay? A lot of times where there are known areas where animals are known to frequent in close proximity to highways, there will be animal crossings, okay? Also, at night, it's usually dusk and dawn is when you're going to see them most active, and so just be aware of that fact. Also be aware of the fact that you mentioned deer. Deer tend to travel in groups, okay? Herds. So if you see one, there's likely more. So if you saw one and you missed that one, be on the lookout because there may be another one jumping into your field of vision pretty quick. So also, just slow down, right? That's the biggest thing. Put the cell phone down and slow down. Obey the speed limit, be aware of things, and everything should be okay.
It happens so suddenly.
It does.
So you have to be thinking in the areas, because we do see pictures. In my area where I live, it's pictures of birds that may be crossing, cranes that may be crossing.
Right.
I read that one of the major, we hit deers most of all, deer, but rodents are a problem?
Rodents, and included with that would be squirrels, raccoons, possums, armadillos, and we see a lot of that kind of roadkill on the side of the road. And what we also have to avoid is, as you're driving, especially if you're driving over 30, 35 miles an hour, be careful of not overreacting, and then you over swerve, and then you end up in an accident, running a telephone pole or another vehicle, or worse, a pedestrian. So just be careful. If a collision's imminent and unavoidable, keep your vehicle under control and come to a controlled stop.
What's your liability when you hit an animal?
Great question. So you need to make sure you have the right insurance, okay? And we've talked about insurance on the show many times. So you want to make sure you have collision coverage, and then you're going to select a deductible, and depending on that deductible will be the amount you're out of pocket for that. So animals will fall under that collision coverage. There's other kind of animal damage that would fall under comprehensive coverage, which doesn't involve a collision. That would be a situation where I just had actually a client come to me, and they had their vehicle at a repair shop, and while in the repair shop, it got infested with some rats.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and they chewed up the wires.
Oh.
And so there was damage done, and that happens in our great state of Florida. So you got to be careful of that, especially in the colder months. They like to go where it's warm. If the engine compartment's warm, they'll crawl up in there. They may nest, and they like to chew those daggum wires for whatever reason.
So that can be covered by insurance.
That's covered by insurance. Now, one thing to be aware of is if you own a domesticated animal, let's, for example, one of the most dangerous collisions involves like a cow, like cattle. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Well, as an owner of a cow, I have a duty to keep my cow off the roadways.
Oh.
And if my fence is in disrepair, or I left the gate unlocked and failed to secure it, and that cow wanders out onto a road and a collision occurs, there may be liability on the owner of that cow. So just because an encounter happens with an animal doesn't mean necessarily that you have to bear the 100% of the cost. There may be a scenario where if we can prove that that animal shouldn't have been where it should have been, and that person, or was there where it shouldn't have been, and that person had a responsibility to keep it secure, you can have a claim against that person under their homeowner's insurance policy.
Oh, I would have thought it was my fault. I would have gone totally the wrong way.
Yeah, no, a lot of times it's our driving action that causes things, but sometimes, especially if you're like on a highway or something, you expect vehicles, you expect perhaps debris, but you don't expect an animal to wander out onto a three-lane highway. And if a collision occurs, if that animal wasn't properly secure, there could be a claim there.
Well, if there's a claim there, we need to do something, I think, when this occurs before we leave the scene. So what should we do if we do have one of these collisions for our insurance purposes?
Number one thing is look out for your safety. Make sure you're safe and make sure that your injuries are well taken care of. And then once the police come, make sure they document the fact that it was an animal, and also make sure that they document it with photography. Okay, and if you're okay, you're physically well enough, you document with photography. I've had a case where a gentleman, it was a wild boar that came out onto the road, and they hit the wild boar. It was raining, slid off, and had a catastrophic accident. Unfortunately, it was a catastrophic accident, so they had no evidence of the boar. But we were able to get hold of the vehicle, and there was some remnants of animal. Had that tested to find it was wild boar, and then the issue is, was there complaints to the highway folks regarding wild boar on those roadways, and was there some sort of foreseeability that this might happen? So those are things that an attorney can help unravel for you. And
you need a detective in this case, yes, to discover it was a wild boar.
That's right.
Oh, that's fascinating. Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Carl. And for more information about any of your legal questions, go to injuriesarepersonal.com. We'll be right back.